Juntunen, your host for this hour of radiant wellness and soul forward living. And every week we dive into topics around multidimensional wellness. What does that mean to take care of all aspects of ourself? How can we really live our soul forward life? How do we put that into motion? So it's always a fun time, and it's an amazing community to be a part of. I will give out our call board number right now. So if you would like to call in today, we are live. 517-208-1500. 517-208-1500 is the call-in number. If you have a sharing, want to, request a mini reading, or you have a question, about what's being talked about. So it's an honor to be with you again. And we are in March 2021, whether you're catching this live or in the archives, it's the recording, just trusting it's the perfect moment that you're touching in, and I always love to just touch base at the beginning of this hour. It really is a community hour. Try to hop over in the chat and see what, is popping over there. And always a pleasure, to really have this time and connection. It really matters that we come together and in communities of upliftment, communities where it's easy because we understand each other, and there is a common interest. It's just a really great thing. And Oneness Talk Radio is so full of this amazing group of hosts. We have so many awesome hosts talking about all kinds of uplifting topics. So it's a great place for community, and it's a great place to spend time. It really is worth checking out, and right now I'm really excited because, we bring on guests on Soul Fusion Cafe. And today I was really honored to be connected with somebody because I know we're going to have a really great conversation, and I think it's perfect timing because we really are in such a beautiful moment coming into March. It's all about our dreams and our visions, and really thinking about it, right? And putting pen to paper and taking some action steps, making your plan. What you see what you want, get crystal clear on that, and make some steps towards it. And this is just a profound moment of community on the planet, of coming together with others, of healing the hearts of humanity. And the beautiful guest that will be joining us today, Sherri Divband, she is a phenomenal intuitive being who has been doing so much work, written books, supported people and animals in her processes and her healing work. And, her mission now, what will bring her in to talk about it, is just so beautiful because it's so timely, to be caretaking, to be way showing, to be supporting the children that are coming in and their families. So I want to bring Sherri Divband into the show and welcome her, and come on in. Yes, welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me today. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us. I'm totally loving your background, by the way, your screen. That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, coming to us from here. So tell us, it was amazing because we just met recently and we connected about the show. And as soon as I had heard, like, check out this person, see if it'd be good for an interview. And I looked at your work, and my heart felt, oh, like, just beautiful. Somebody doing this work that I also feel so passionate about. And clearly you're making an impact in the world. And so I think it's just inspiring to meet you. And I think it'd be awesome for us to hear, yeah, what it is that's really fueling you now, your passion, and like how you got here.
Wow. So thank you so much for that introduction. And gosh, people always ask this question, and how you get, how did I get to where I am now? And it's so interesting because it's such a rocky, jagged road, like it's never what you envisioned your life to be. Your journey always just shifts and changes depending on your consciousness and, and what you're being guided to do. And so, my profession actually started with animals. So I still am a registered veterinary technician. So that's like a nurse for animals. And my passion, my whole life has always been animals. I feel like I have a deep connection with the animal kingdom, and I appreciate them very much. And so I learned energy healing to work with animals, and I did animal communication for many years. And I never really wanted to work with people. And so when I started having my own children, this like new world opened up for me, and I fell in love with my kids, and I started noticing other children. And I was going through my own ascension when I had my first child 16 years ago, almost to the day. A couple days ago, he just turned 16, and my life really shifted when I had him, and I was really on my own spiritual path. And in doing that, I really wanted to, explore and discover how I could help people and other parents through the same journey, and I noticed that the children were so bright, so vibrant, so wise. And this little guy was teaching me something every single day, and I started taking note of it. And I wasn't quite communicating with my guides as much back then, so it was really just more of like a conscious noticing that, I felt like this child is here to teach me some things. And so then I started having my other two children years later, and that's when I really had this awakening, and I started noticing how unique they were. That's when I discovered the rainbow crystal star children, and I really started researching it through my own guides, and I learned so much. And I was told that I had three different children that fell into three completely different categories for a reason, so that I would really understand them, so I could write about them and help other parents understand how unique these children are, why they're different, what they're here to do. So it was my own children that really opened my eyes, but through that, meeting other children, like their friends, and interacting with them, I really, I'm to this day still floored by their wisdom and what they bring to the world, and what they're here to teach us, and how they're breaking down paradigms, and rebuilding them with new innovative ideas that come from a higher consciousness that a lot of adults just don't have. And so it really inspired me to write the book Divinely Guided, which is a guidebook for teens and young adults, as well as the parents, to really understand the different categories these children fall into, how to parent them, and more importantly, the kids themselves, as they read it, as their adolescent minds kind of grasp the different categories, they figure out where they fall into, and why they are different, and that's okay, and it's actually a beautiful thing, and what they're here to do, and how they're here to inspire, and how they're here to change. And so through that book, I really designed in my mind a center that was more of a dream. At first I was like, gosh, I would really love to have a children's center where kids could come and learn meditation and spirituality, and learn energy healing and all of this. It was like a dream, right? I was like, I didn't actually think I was going to do it. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, why can't I do that? And so I've been thinking about it for years in my mind. And then COVID hit this past year, and it wasn't the right time, but it was like chimes in my ear in December of 2020, where my guides were like, it's time to go now. It's like, get up, let's get moving. And I was at first kind of in shock, like, right now, like, this is it. And what do I do? And I have so many questions, and they're like, just one step at a time. And I'm like, but what about this? And what about, where am I going to do this? And they just, they just encourage me one step at a time to just move forward with this. And now it's just blossomed into such an amazing, I mean, the emails and the support I get from the community and all over the world through interviews that I do, like, I mean, it melts my heart. I'm filled with such gratitude that so many parents are open to this. Because at first, my ego, my insecurity came through, and I said, gosh, what if I put this out there and nobody wants it, and I had to put that aside. And I get validated all the time with all of the immense support from so many people, even people that don't have children, are emailing me and saying, gosh, I wish I had this when I was a kid. I don't have any children anymore, but how can I support you? So it's just, it's blossoming, and every day I have more teachers every day join the center, and it's just it's just incredible. Yeah. So
Wow.
that's kind of the backstory.
I mean, I love it. There's so many pieces in there, right? That all had to come together for you to ultimately come into your service, like in the, like you said, you've been serving a long time, but this is like this chapter or this time, that everything lined up from when you had your own kids to that opening. And
Yeah.
just everything you're sharing makes me so excited, because it's so important for people to hear our stories, like how we got here, right? Because
Mhm.
everybody's path is absolutely unique, but the commonality is like, if you are listening, if you are open to that guidance, if you are asking for that support, you are in that manifestation energy. And look at how fast it goes when you say yes, right? You're like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm writing a book. Okay, I'm opening the center. I mean, wow.
Yeah, I always tell people when you're doing things for the right reason and it resonates with the universal collective consciousness and with the awakening and what's true, you'll be supported in an abundance of ways. And I mean, I'm the testament of that. I mean, think about what's happened since December of last year till now we're in March 1st or 2nd. I have 15 teachers. We have almost 40 classes online right now being offered. And my mind is blown.
Wow.
Sometimes I have to stop and think about like, wow, how did this happen? Like
Yeah.
it's just cognitively, I don't think I can understand it, but consciously and when I tap into a higher awareness, I get it, but it's a lot, but it's very exciting. And these kids, I taught my first class a couple weekends ago for kids, Reiki level 1. I've taught,
Oh,
probably hundreds of people Reiki over the years. But this was my first class teaching like a real class. I've taught before with kids, but it was very, at someone's house, and it wasn't, very, not structured. So this was the first, and these kids were so open, they were so willing, and they were so good at channeling the energy. They don't have the blockages that a lot of the adults do. They don't have so many reservations, and I think I had more fun than the kids did. Like it was such a beautiful day, and I can't, every weekend when I teach classes in the center, I just can't believe that this is my life right now. Like I'm having so much fun, and the kids are having fun, and they're learning, and they're growing, and I'm growing, and I'm learning. I'm just very blessed right now, and I don't even know what to say. I just have no words to express it, And that's rare for me. Usually I have a lot to say.
it's amazing, right? And like you're sharing, it does defy our minds or our words. And you are an example to, anybody that could be out there looking like, okay, I know I have a higher purpose. I know there's something I need to be doing. Clearly you had something in you that's like, you already trusted this, like
Yeah.
that the universe will figure it out, that it will be come into alignment. Like you clearly have a lot of trust anchored, and that is definitely a key, to be
Yeah.
able to manifest at this level and to have that impact. You would have to be in that real trust space of the divine. What brought you to that? Like, where did you
You
get
know,
that
it,
trust from?
I mean, that's a great question, Jess, because I think it's just like a deep unknowing that there's a need. Like there's a need for this. And these children need support. These children need guidance. They don't understand some of the gifts. When you're at a soul level, you understand what your life journey is and what you're coming down to do, and then you come out into this body and it's very dense. And then these kids are high vibration, okay, like 12th density. So they're trying to fit into this third dimensional, third density space in this physical body. Many of them have not had any lives. Okay, so a lot, I would say a good half of these new earth children have not had lives before. So they are like, it's a
Wow.
shock to the system. And they have these gifts, and they look around, and as they get a little bit older, and I don't mean older like teens. I'm like when they really start to feel who they are, sort of 5, 6 years old, and they start experiencing things. They look they're still children, so they're looking around like, who can I tell, or who can I talk to about this, or how come not other I don't see other children seeing these things or talking about these things. And some of them get embarrassed about it, or they're afraid that they're going to be made fun of. And this is such a critical period because they have such a vast mission. And it's so critical right now that these children are supported in the way that they need. And so a part of me knew that I needed to do this because parents, I can't tell you how many clients of my own that are parents that came to me and have come to me over even just the past year. My child sees ghosts, or they said that they remember their past lives, or they're talking about dimensions. What do I do? I don't know what to say to them. And so I work with the parents, and then I started noticing, wow, these children don't have any resources. And I researched it myself, and I've found very minimal, aside from, mindfulness and meditation, there isn't a lot of support out there, or centers. And I'm not sure why. And so I think I've just seen the need for it. And I said, you know what, I'll do, and I'm not saying I'm the only one. There have to be others out there. I'm not that special, but in my area, I can't find it. And so when I put myself out there, I said, you know what, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make it happen for my children because they need it. And I'm going to make it happen for all the other children out there who are looking for those resources, or someone even like myself to talk to, so they could say, they could tell me, hey, I've seen ghosts, and I'm not going to freak out and say, oh, really? Tell me about them, because they need to know that they're supported. They're not alone. They're not, they're different, but not in a bad way. They're special, and they can hone in on those gifts and use them to their advantage, because these children are anchoring us into the fifth density. And so they need to be supported in their gifts, and they need to thrive, and they need to explore. And the parents are looking for this just as much as the children are, because they're kind of at a loss, because they weren't raised in that environment. And so they're looking for advice and guidance as well. And so I think that really what pushed me forward was my angels and guides pushing me on one hand, but really on the other hand, noticing that this is needed. This is very necessary, especially since we're going through a mass awakening on the planet, and this ascension, that many adults are having their own spiritual awakening, and they have a lot of questions, and a lot of those people are parents. And so then even if their children are not showing signs of interest of spirituality per se, the parents are. So then they look at their children and they say, gosh, I need to talk to my children about this, because I'm experiencing these things, and maybe they are, and we haven't had that conversation before. So there are so many things happening on the planet right now that these resources need to be available. And so I encourage, I don't believe in competition. So I encourage anybody out there listening to this that's inspired by what I'm doing, create something in your community. Even if it's something small, the more that we have these little kind of centers around the world, I think that they'll expand and they'll catch on, because it's needed and it's necessary.
Yeah, I've got like chills for sure.
Yeah.
So a huge part, like what I'm hearing you say too, is like you saw the need
Yeah.
and that motivated you, and your children needed it too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a huge motivator. And then having that connection to your guides and support system that you already know is there and work with, in order to birth this. It's just so amazing to me. I love all the examples that I am seeing. And it's no joke, and the archangelic realm has been saying the ability to manifest is just increasing exponentially, like our ability to tap in and do it. And when I see it happening, I just smile, because it's like, yes, see, like that's for me, when we see other people doing it, it helps other people remember I can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, I know it's no mistake, like you and I connected. I know that completely. So I'm already going like, okay, yeah, I need to see and have more conversations with Sherri about this, because I feel really passionately about bringing something into my own community
Yeah.
in this way, and it's always been pretty big for me, and it keeps popping. So I definitely am feeling inspired myself on a
Yeah.
personal level. So I thank you so much for doing what you are, and you really are modeling something, so that, yeah, anyone that's listening or tuning in, if this is like a passion of yours, like, look, you can do it. Like, look what is being built here. And then it sounds like for sure it's like the parents that are finding you, right? That come
Mhm.
and say, okay, they're searching for an answer. Is that typically how people find you, or are there kids that are finding you, like by talking to other kids, or what's going on there?
Well, I think a majority of it right now, because it's so new, are the parents. The clients that I've seen for years, that I've talked about it. Oh yeah, I know I need to create this. I'm like, hey, I did it. Like, you want to have your kid, and they're signing their kids up. And so I think for right now, it's mainly the parents that know that their children would be interested in certain classes, or I have one parent that has enrolled her son in almost everything I've done so far, which is incredible. So I think right now it's on a parent level. And I do a lot of interviews on my YouTube channel and other YouTube channels that I'm part of, like a couple of collective channels. So then the parents outside of my state end up emailing me and saying, this is actually a good point. So when I first created the center, in my mind, I thought, okay, because I was overwhelmed, by all the things that I needed to do, all the equipment I needed to buy, all the teachers I needed to interview. And I also run another center for intuitive wellness. So I work with clients, all the time. So I'm very busy with that. And so I was overwhelmed. So my idea was, okay, I'm gonna create this local. So it's going to be a center for children in my area. So, Bethesda or Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And down the line, I'll offer some virtual classes. Maybe in the spring, I'll start sprinkling some in. And that was like the rude awakening, because as soon as I started talking about this online, I was flooded by emails with parents all over the country. I've had people in Australia and other countries reach out, but a lot in the States saying, I'm in California, or I'm in Arizona. When are you going to, I'm in New York. When are you going to offer virtual classes? And I was just overwhelmed, but in a good way. And I was like, man, I have to do this right now. And so I literally would be up all night. I mean, all night, like in the beginning, just writing down ideas. Okay, because I want these classes to be just as beneficial, or how do I say it? Just as interactive virtually, right? Because that's kind of hard to do. So I was really trying to say, how can I create this class virtually and still make it fun or interactive? And I struggled with that for a while. And then, my inspiration came, and then some of the teachers had suggestions. And so it's like two balls rolling at the same time with just as much momentum. So I created just as many virtual classes as the in-person classes, almost at the same time, very fast. And it was a whirlwind, but now I'm so grateful that I did it, because I have almost more interest virtually right now than I do in person. And so, it was one of those things where I was just pushed to do, because there is such a need for it. Like I said, these parents are like, hey, I want my child. I saw you offer music classes in person. Are you going to offer those online? And I said, gosh, yeah, I will. I'm going to get on it, and then, I'm just doing as much as I can. I'm just one person. But like I said, like if people like yourself see what I'm doing, maybe other people, other parents even can say, I can create this, I could teach these things all over the country. And then there are just, and one thing at a time, but one thing I'd like to do with divinely guided children is to create, to franchise it out a little bit and make centers all over the country, that is under this name, with the teachers that I incorporated and my classes that I've come up with. But one thing at a time. And another thing you and I had talked about, which is fun, is I'd love to offer retreats. One of which would be in Ecuador at your center that you work with. I apologize, I don't remember the name.
It's
Um,
a Tosa Blue Mountain.
yes, yeah. So, anyways, the sky's the limit, right? On the possibilities. There's no right or wrong. It's just you just create.
I love it. I love it. Just create. There's no wrong or right. Just get to it. Put the and
Yeah.
like I love when you are divinely inspired like that, like you share, there's that moment of overwhelm that can come in, and believe me, I've been going through this in my own creation process, like, oh my gosh, could I like do all of that? But when you've let go of your mind and you're in it and doing it, like you could be up all night, some nights, so you can have the energy that's needed to do it. And then yeah, it's like breaking our own paradigms of, how much we can accomplish, because, right, I mean, everything's breaking down as we ascend, our whole idea of time and these
Yeah,
old structures, and the sky's the limit, right? I
it
mean,
really is.
yeah. Yeah, and even shoot beyond that. There is no limit, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, and the whole idea of retreats, I mean, that's just fantastic, and I think it brings such a way that families can come. We talked earlier how, and when you mentioned it today too, like the parents, right? That they're learning too. I mean, it's like we can't
Yeah.
really just say, okay, here's like the school for the kids, but like the parents are going to school too, right? As they're either learning it with their kids or learning how to communicate with their kids, or
Yeah.
maybe like healing their own inner child, and doing
Yeah.
their own work. It's probably opening so many doors, and this is it. I mean, this is where we're going. We're building the new earth, we're building it, and this is just so amazing and inspiring to me, because this is like ground zero is our children, our families, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that you bring up a good point, Jess. I did think about that. I'm like, okay, so what about the parents? The kids are learning all of these amazing things and how to channel energy and how to tap into a higher awareness and learning all of these amazing skills and learning about crystals and crystal gritting and all of these things. What about the parents? And so, I do offer parent classes and support groups and things like that, both in person and virtually, because I didn't want to leave the parents out. So we do offer a lot for the parents as well, so that they can kind of mirror the classes that the kids are taking, but more in a higher level. Or that doesn't sound right, not a higher level, but just in a different way, that's catered to the parents learning the same things that the kids are learning. And so I think that that's just as important, because the parents need to learn these things as well. And I have a lot of parents saying, oh, can you teach me how to work with crystals? Or I'd like to learn how to use tarot cards, or I'd like to learn Reiki. So the parents are not left out here. There we offer a lot of stuff for the parents as well, and resources. And I do a lot of intuitive energy healing, because that's my baby. At the end of the day, no matter what, my I'm here as a healer, and that's my passion. It may have started with animals, but I have, I don't leave anyone out now. I still work with animals, but I really enjoy that. And I work with a lot of people, all ages, children all the way up to senior citizens, helping them with their ascension, helping them heal and merge their timelines and clear karma and contracts and energy cords, and help them through their own ascension. And so a lot of parents, I think, right now are coming to me for that, because they need a lot of guidance and a lot of help with their own ascension. And so that's another passion of mine, because it's also very needed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think we are at that point where so many more people are looking for it, or
Yeah.
it's an option to start considering, right? It's
Yeah.
not any longer just an out there fringe thing, to do some of this kind of work. And we are at a moment, maybe we can talk about this a bit, like this powerful ascension moment that we're all experiencing. So if people are listening and they're going like, yeah, like I need some of that support too, what kind of guidance do you offer people when they're just like, first waking up? Maybe it was their kids that opened that portal to them, or whatever happened in their life. But what kind of advice do you give people that are just coming to this kind of work?
Yeah, and it's happening in mass quantities right now. There's a lot of people waking up, and they're confused and they are frustrated and kind of looking for support. And so there are a lot of different things I do. I offer to do energy healing with them, to help them get started, to help them release a lot of that karma and those blockages and the pre-programming that they've been dealing with their whole life, as they wake up and they look back, to help them kind of release a lot of that energy that has been blocking them from moving forward, but also encourage them to tap into their own higher awareness and explore their connection with source, whatever that means to them, through meditation. It's a lot, this is a lifestyle. A lot of people want to come to me and say, okay, can you do all of these things and then I'm great? And that's not really how it works. That's what my first book is called, Intuitive Transformation Evolution. And really that's a guidebook for more for adults, but anybody really, on how to raise your awareness, how to understand that your emotions have a vibration, and you have more control over your wellness than you realize, and what we're here to do, and what is our ascension journey, and so forth. And so I encourage people to explore that, and read my book, read other. I have a lot of great books that I like to reference, and it's a lifestyle. So when I work with people, I can help them a lot, but I'm big on empowering people to take their journey into their own hands. It's all about using discernment and connecting to source yourself, because we all, I don't care who it is, have the ability to heal ourselves. We have the ability to connect to our own guardian angels and guides. I'm not special in what I do. I just have practiced, and I had a desire to do it, and then my intention was there. But anybody can do it, and so it's all about changing your lifestyle and recognizing your vibration and how it's influenced by certain things, and what you can do to raise it through mindful eating, mindfulness about your emotions, who you have in your life, who are you listening to, what TV shows are you watching, what programming are you allowing, and kind of switch your perspective back and kind of look at the big picture and see what's going on in your life, because everybody has a different circumstance, and just pay attention to those things, and you just start in one avenue. So learning meditation, eating better food, reading more books, but really just having discernment is my big one, because there are a lot of gurus out there. There are a lot of people telling people what they think that they should do, and they're misguided, and they're misleading people in the wrong direction. And it's oftentimes challenging for people to know who to listen to. And I always tell people, if somebody is guiding you to tap into your own higher awareness, or to develop your own connection with source, or to empower you to take your healing journey into your own hands, that's the person you listen to. But for those out there that are saying, do it this way, or you can only follow me, or you have to be this, do this, follow this religion, or I can help you, only I can help you, and you have to come to me, a certain amount of times. Those are the people you want to run away from. Those are third density people that are taking advantage. So it's all about really learning to tap into and also trust your intuition, because it's built into each and every one of us. But a lot of us are programmed not to trust it. And so it's developing a relationship with yourself, loving yourself, self-healing, and start to forgive and let go of the third density constructs and paradigms that we have been so attached to. So I think that that's a long-winded answer. I think that there's no right or wrong. There's just so many different things, but I'm just big on empowering people to take charge of their life, and giving them certain steps, such as the ones I said, to help them do that.
Yeah, I love it, and that is the key right there, right? Is the empowering other people. And I know, that's the same for me too. It's like that's the goal, is to empower others to be able to trust themselves, to develop that intuition, and that people do. We all need that guidance, like you said. We have all these programs that we came with, and you realize, like, the majority of what we think of as our personality and who we are is all this construct, and we're unlearning it and learning how to listen to that voice that's always been there, that
Yeah.
part of us that's always been there. So it's so important, everything you highlighted, and I think, like you said, it's going to be so many things, but it's a lifestyle. And I think I love that, how you put that, because for people to understand, I think a lot of our culture has led us to be really prescriptive. So a lot of people go for
Yeah.
meditation so that they can stop being anxious, and that's a great, reason to come to something for healing, but it's very prescriptive, and that realization has to kick in, that, like, you have to want it, and it has to become like this is just, this is my part, my life, I live my life like this. I don't just, and that comes, I think, with our spiritual maturity,
Yeah.
and where we're at. But we all start out in that phase of just like, get me something to like help me, right? I need something to help me right now. I heard meditation could help, or I
Yeah.
heard a reading could help,
Yeah,
um,
and those are all tools, and they're
right.
helpful and they're great, and collectively they're even better. But the ascending and really going on a spiritual path is a journey, and it is a lifestyle. And a lot of people don't want to put in the work because it is hard, and it's harder on this journey because you have to face your feelings, you have to do inner child work, you have to do reflection, you have to forgive. That's so hard for people. That's number one. I say start forgiving yourself, and you have to forgive people, and that is huge for people, and they are so tied energetically to that low vibration, that karma, those contracts with people, and it's time to let that go. And so a lot of people just get complacent, because it's very the third dimension is designed almost as though it's very easy to be in it, right? Because it has a lot of lower vibrational energy. So fear lives here, anger, resentment, worry, anxiety, all the things that many people are walking around feeling right now. And it's almost easier to saturate yourself into that than try to elevate yourself out of it. And so people come to me desperate, and they want me to fix them and heal them and do the work for them. And I just can't do that. And so I say, I could do a lot for you. But when you leave my office and live your life, you're going to determine what you do with the work that I've done with you, and how you live and how you think and how you act, and your intention. And a lot of people they just don't want to do it. It's a lot of work. And so it's easier just to remain in a lower frequency. And that's the unfortunate part, because it's a lifestyle. But my encouragement to people is, it is hard in the beginning, but once, just like anything else, once it becomes routine, once it becomes precedent, once you love yourself and recognize the importance of it, it's no longer work. You
Right.
thrive in it. You know what I'm saying? It's just, you
Right.
got to get over the hump. But once you're there, there's no looking back.
Yeah,
All
it's
the
getting
people.
over the right. It's getting
Yeah.
over that ego's grip on all
Yeah.
those attachments to density. That's the hard part. But once
Yeah.
you do, it's like, oh, the ego even relaxes more and more because it
Everything.
says, oh, this is great, actually. It's
Yeah.
it's not so bad here on the other side. I love it. I'm gonna hop over to the phone lines, and I'm gonna give out the number if anybody's out there and would like to call in and share, or you have a question, or you would like a little guidance. 517-208-1500 is that number. 517-208-1500. And yeah, I love this conversation. There's so many places this can really go, and I think there's just so much just great rich support we're offering to people here. And like you were sharing, with all these shifts that are happening, and we have all these young ones that have been born in this time, like you shared, they don't have the same amount of cleanup a lot of the adults that are here have to do, because they're new, right? They
Yeah.
haven't been doing some of these attachment dance with other beings for maybe many lifetimes, or have as much to clear up. But what is clear to me, I am noticing for people, is it's very uncomfortable. Like, it's easier to be in density until it's not, right? I mean, it's just like, until it's like, wait a second, and some people that's fine. Like Archangel Zodkill, he's one that always just says, do it, and do it well. If you're going to do it, just go for it, right?
Yeah.
But for those that are feeling like there's a little bit something more, and density is always there, like you shared, it's very easy to just, it's like a lullaby, it's a hypnotic, you can just go into it. So there is in a perceived ease, right, with just
Yeah.
letting take you. And many of us, through our journey, we awaken and we go back in, right? And there's like a drowsy phase for people where it's like, one foot out, and then, oh, I'm going back in, because it's scary to like look at all of your stuff, right? To the ego, that's all scary stuff.
Yeah.
To forgiveness, like, that's huge. But yeah, that there is a momentum now, and I'm noticing it's like you can't really handle being in that in between zone anymore, for those that are like, it's like you have to decide now, are you just going to go into that density and just do it well, or are you going to, answer your soul's call and move and be in that fifth dimension like be in those other frequencies. And it's very much a choice point, I'm noticing, for people.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really good point. Our physical bodies are like physically having a reaction to this third dimensional, fifth dimensional pull, tug of war rather. And it's getting to a point where we do have to make a choice because our body can't sustain the frequency shifts that are that drastic. When you're in a third density, you know, you can shift up within it, up and down within it, right? And your body is, most of our bodies are used to that, those of us that have been around for a while. But as the earth itself, as Mother Gaia has shifted into a fifth density, the frequency of the earth has risen, and so the physical bodies are adjusting to that. And so as we go into a fifth density, we can't go back and forth with ease anymore because the physical body is actually having a reaction. A lot of people are having ascension flu symptoms, is what they call it. And we have to make a choice at some point because I don't believe our bodies are going to be able to sustain going back and forth like this. And so people are going to be forced with a choice about, okay, am I going to face this now? Am I going to ascend? Am I going to move forward, or am I not? And you're absolutely right about that. And one quick point on the children, what I've heard repeatedly over and over is they've told me they are here to teach, they are not here to learn. So that's kind of their motto: we are here to teach, not to learn. And so they don't come in with contracts or karma or any of that. They're here strictly to teach in masses in different ways, and they're not really here to learn necessarily anything. And so I think that that's a very critical point to recognize with these guys.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I am so interested in all of this conversation about, yeah, what they came here for, right? These ones that are carrying this and that they are here to teach. And um, I definitely see that as a truth in many people's lives, because I know that they were very asleep till they had their children, right? And these children taught their parents literally to awaken their own families and to I think that there's feedback and I know why. um yeah, and that they're teaching their families so many things, from, like, it might be that about their food or lifestyle, or that there is more going on when your kid starts talking about their past,
Yeah.
life experience, or talks about, things that are so wise that, like, how could a 4-year old be, um, saying the sorts of things that are coming out of their mouths, and the parents
Yeah.
are going, oh my gosh, like, what is even happening? Because it's totally something they've never even heard, or
Yeah.
thought of. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what the parents will say. They're like, I never talked to them about this before. They've never seen anything on television or cartoons or any, like, where is this coming from? There's no possible way that they would know even some of the words that they say. Where did they come up with dimensions before? I don't talk about dimensions. And so the parents are baffled sometimes. And that's very validating for them, though, because then they realize, well, these children really are onto something. And it makes the parents think, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you think about hopping over on the phone line? Because I do see who we have a call coming in here. Looks like Indiana.
Indiana.
Hello, welcome to the show. Are you there, Indiana? Okay, it sounds like we just have a lot of feedback, so I'm sorry, we have to mute you. Okay, not sure why, but we could not hear you. Sorry. Um,
Maybe they could call back.
yeah, if you want to try calling back in and seeing if you get a better connection. It sounds kind of like a lot of static in the line, and I can't hear anything. So, but yeah, I am absolutely, like, blown away to see what's been happening, you know. And my own children, they are teenagers now. And it's a really interesting time, you know. Teenage years are really, really fascinating, and I'm noticing, are, you know, they're playing with all the density stuff. It's fun for them too, you know. And it's
Yeah.
an interesting point where it's like they've always known, you know, some of these concepts because I've been awake long enough to be talking to them about it or listening to them. But it's kind of interesting to also let them go and have their journey now, you know, because some of the things I saw that they utilized and used regularly, now that they're teenagers, it's just like, you know, it's all about playing in the density field for them. And I just trust that they'll come back around because they have that there, and they still have like all of these like gifts and crazy amazing things coming forward. But it's really interesting to try to navigate, because the fascination for density, it's like something I think that some of them need to go through too. I mean, it's got to be, I don't know, what are your thoughts on that, about those years, you know? And
Yeah, I mean, it's just like any other teenage years for any generation. I mean, it's a difficult time because they're trying to navigate through a lot of physical things as well. You know, because no matter where you come from, if you're ascended master, if you're a high frequency star seed, whatever it may be, you still have to acclimate to a physical body and the things that come along with that, and the hormones and the influences by your peers, and people are trying to figure out who they are. And so that's very much a third density type of reality. And so they need time to explore that, and parents, you know, the best advice to give, and I only have a 16-year-old, so my knowledge is limited on my personal experience and more on the wisdom that I've been given through my channelings with my guides and things, and what they have told me to do with my own, is more, you know, release them and allow them the opportunity, like you said, to explore and figure things out for themselves. Because the more we try to control them, the more resistant they become. And this really is about their journey. It's not yours. It's not my journey. It's their journey. And as much as we want to guide them, it's oftentimes almost better not to. Because, and the reason why is because I've been told that, I don't even know how to say this, a lot of the jobs or the reality that we are going to see 10, 15, 20 years from now, or when our children are adults and they're having children, what I've been told is it's going to look completely different, and a lot of the jobs don't even exist yet. So it's hard to guide your children on something when we don't even know what it's going to look like down the line. And there's so much pressure that they need to do this and they need to do that. And I'm very relaxed about that. You know, my son is 16, and he's having to make all sorts of decisions through school and what programs he wants to go in. And I feel for him, and I say, you know what, don't worry about it. You're not meant to decide what you want to do right now. You're 16 years old, and they just need time to explore and have life experiences. And I think that a lot of the things that they're going to be doing later on, like we don't even know what that looks like right now. So it's hard to guide them, other than being a kind, genuine, compassion, good person, and giving them the root core values, and them knowing ultimately at the end of the day, no matter what, their parents support them. That's all they need. The rest are going to figure it out, you know. And so that's kind of how I feel about that. And once they get into their own, they're going to thrive in that fifth density way easier than we're the ones that are struggling, right?
right, yeah, they're
they're,
fine.
they're going to gravitate right into it, and then they're going to look back and say, Mom, you need some help? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
going to be helping us. And so everybody just needs to relax a little bit, you know, like
yeah,
think,
I
like
love that.
our
I
reality
love,
is so serious. Just calm
yeah.
down and just enjoy life, you know. Like, the difficult part about third density and pre-programming and what we've been uh, programmed to believe, our reality is so uptight, and there's so much competition, and it's too much, you know. And I don't like that for my children. I don't want them to feel like the person next to them is not a friend, they're competing. And that's the reality of how it's been, you know. Oh, well, that you have to be the top of your class, so then next thing you know, you're feeling like you're competing with everybody around you. And that's not why we're here. We're not supposed to look at down on someone or make ourselves feel better than others. And that's the wonderful thing about these new earth children. They already know that, so they don't want to compete. They think it's
Right.
wrong, and they're looking at their parents saying, I don't want this. This isn't right. And so they're already, you know,
There
breaking
is
down
so
those
cool.
paradigms themselves, right? Because they know it's wrong. They
Yeah.
already know it. So it's
Yeah.
such a beautiful thing.
I love it. I know. I'm like, I love seeing, I almost cry sometimes just seeing the kids and the teenagers, and I have a spot for them, and the ones that do come to me to work too. It's crazy how much they can do, like
Yeah.
in one 30-minute session of connecting with themselves and working with energy and receiving, they go, they can go from like on the floor to completely, back up in their complete wisdom and mastery, like boom. It's so amazing how quickly they do. So I think that's important. I love what you shared, that it's their journey, our kids across the board, right? It's like
Oh,
their journey. I mean, they did choose us when they came into this journey to be the parents that they would have through it, but they are their own beings, just like we all went through the same thing, right? We wanted to be we had our own destiny, our own path.
yeah.
And I think it's also just exciting to think about what's possible for all these kids. They came in to teach and serve, and like you shared, we don't know what jobs are going to look like. We don't know any of it, and all that rigidity that's been programmed in is breaking down. And I love too that you shared, like, just we don't have to worry about it so much. Just enjoy your life and being in your joy, doing your own work. That's how we do help our kids the most, I think, right? Is like we're modeling doing our thing and taking care of our stuff and forgiving our own self and doing our work. And that is like the best thing we can do, is just be that example and be the best that we can be, and be that support person when they want that and need that from us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and I feel bad for, you know, some of these parents because they're just going off of the programming that they themselves have you know, lived with their whole life. And you know, my best advice for parents, and the biggest mistake that they make, is they try to lump their kids into one box. And the best way to parent multiple children, if you have them, is to look at them and treat them as individuals. And that's really hard to do, and it takes a lot of patience. And I work at it every single day. But each one of my children learn different. They react differently to punishment if there is if it calls for it. I have to explain things differently to them. You know, so we can't place them in on one little box. Because that's why they're here. They're here to show us that they are different and they are unique. And for parents out there that does have a child that's different, you know, deemed different. What's different? I don't know, but not like the other children. That's a beautiful thing, and that's for a reason, because these children are coming in to say, hey, these other unique qualities are important, and to force teachers and parents and society to stop placing these kids in one box, because they're different, and they're there, and they're different for a reason. Some are very cognitive and analytical for a reason, because those children are the ones that are here to rebuild the paradigms after they're broken down, right? So those are the ones that are deemed Asperger's. They're highly intelligent, maybe they're introverted, they're shy, so their parents force them to be in situations where they're
Yeah.
with a lot of children and they're uncomfortable. You have to let them be, the mold them to how they are brought into this world, their DNA, their makeup. They're here for a reason. They're here to rebuild society as it breaks down, you know. And then there are some that come in with the love frequency, and they're here to, and they're deemed super sensitive and pushovers and this, but they're here to remind us to love each other. And they have an important mission to do, to spread love across the world and remind people of compassion and empathy, and that we don't need to compete, and we don't need to come from a place of anger and resentment, and to stop arguing with each other and things like that. And then there are others that are very stubborn, and they're that way for a reason, because they're here to be the future leaders of the world. And so as the analytical ones are rebuilding the paradigms and the other ones are spreading love and joy and compassion, then there are other types that are coming in, and they are the future leaders of the world. And so they're very headstrong and deemed stubborn and argumentative, but they're that way for a reason. I had one of my children was very challenging at one point, and I had a guide tell me one night when I was really frustrated. They said, "Sherri, don't break him," meaning stop trying to change him, stop trying to argue with him, accept him for the way he is. He's this way for a reason. And it was a huge epiphany for me, and my own self-realization that my kids and all kids come in with specific qualities and characteristics that will provide them the tools that they need to follow through with their journey of what they're here to do. And so it's extremely important that parents and society and teachers, everybody alike, to look at these children as unique beings and say, instead of judging them or trying to push them in one direction because their parent is one way, instead nurture them and provide the space for them, and think, gosh, I wonder what they're going to do with these qualities later on in life. I wonder, this must be why they're this way, because they're going to do certain things later. And if we all shift our thinking, then these children would have a much easier journey ahead, right? Because then we could just let them be.
Yeah, I love it. And this is so good. And I just was peeking at the chat, and there's just so much love going on in there, and people saying they love this conversation and energy. And I mean, I can't even believe we are at the end of an hour,
Oh my
because
gosh.
I know I could keep talking and sharing about this. I have to thank you so much, because this has been very inspiring on many different levels for us all. And your work is really important. How can people get in touch if they want to learn more about what you have going on? Share with us. How can they get in touch?
So the Children's Center is divinelyguidedchildren.com. So if they want to learn more about the center, the classes that we're offering, that's where they can go to find that. If they want to hear me talk more, I have a YouTube channel that's under my name, Sherri Divband, and I have a lot of things that I talk about on my channel, certain topics, both with children and just ascension and spirituality. And my other website is intuitivewellnesscenter.com. So that's more for the adults.
Awesome. Amazing. I'll make sure I get those links in the video description and stuff after too when we get off,
Okay.
so people
Yeah.
can find you. And have to share too tonight, if you want to continue some awesome conversation, I'm going to be over on Soul Mirrors with Kira Ra tonight. That's at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And be sure to check out the wwaglobal.com, because that's coming up on the equinox. And I think it's just a beautiful bridge, because it's just that time where we're creating the world that we want to see as possible, and the things that we've been talking about here today. It's our time for all of us to be doing that together, so check out that movement too, because it's all about this building and healing the hearts of humanity and seeing one another and ascending and creating what is possible. We all have this dream, and it's our time. It's our time to do it. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And
Thank you for having me.
I look forward to continued conversation, and yeah, so much more to come. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.